Michigan, statewide, they have 10% or so, I think it's 9%, more people on the rolls than are living there and eligible to vote. Think about that. They got more people on the rolls than are supposed to be there. And we're supposed to accept as reliable mail-in ballots from lists that are run by people who can't track who's there and who's not. You're right to be suspicious. Judicial Watch is taking a leadership role on this, highlighting these issues. We also have separately, people are much more interested in this information now because we've been highlighting it for months and years, practically speaking, the fact that the voter rolls across the country are dirty. In Pennsylvania, our lawsuit to clean up the rolls have found nearly 800,000, quote, extra names. We did a more recent analysis just in Michigan. I tweeted it out the other day. Over 654,000 extra names on the rolls. And by extra names on the rolls, I mean people on the rolls who shouldn't be there, practically speaking. Michigan, statewide, they have 10% or so, I think it's 9%, more people on the rolls than are living there and eligible to vote. Think about that. They got more people on the rolls than are supposed to be there. And we're supposed to accept as reliable mail-in ballots from lists that are run by people who can't track who's there and who's not. You're right to be suspicious. Now, constitutionally speaking, let me remind you, again, the press doesn't decide who the president is. And if there's a legal process or a election process that is rife with fraud, under our Constitution, the states have plenary power to appoint electors as they see fit. So if there's a demonstration of fraud, either in court or practically speaking, as a result of their own independent investigation in Pennsylvania, for instance, Pennsylvania can reject the electors that would have been appointed in favor of Joe Biden, absent the fraud, and appoint electors in favor of President Trump. And in certain states, you may even have two elector slates being appointed, and then the Congress has to decide what to do. Or Congress could decide what to do in January. Let's say Pennsylvania appoints electors in favor of Joe Biden, despite the substantial concerns that I've raised. The Senate and the House have independent ability to question that and reject the electors. And then it would go to the House and they would select who the president is among the top three vote getters. This is the way it goes. You vote, and the only reason you vote in the states is because the electors have given you the right to vote. The legislatures are giving you the right to vote. The right to select electors, the power to do that and how that's done, constitutionally speaking, resides with the state legislature, and they can take it back at any time. So the vote for president is obviously voting for members of the Electoral College, a process set up by your state legislatures. The state legislatures and or the officials that they currently allow to do this under law certify the result, and then the electors vote as part of the Electoral College process in the middle of December. Then on January 6th, the new Congress is supposed to meet together and count the votes and essentially confirm and ratify the Electoral College selection of the presidency, of the president and vice president. Now, if there's a challenge, this is how it would go. A member of the House and a member of the Senate would have to challenge electors, or essentially slates, whatever you want to call it. And then they go meet separately. And you could get a situation where the House, for instance, wants to bless the Biden electors out of Pennsylvania, and the Senate wants to reject the Biden electors out of Pennsylvania. And frankly, I'm not sure what happens next. I've looked at it very carefully. It's not clear what happens next. Whether that means they can't really vote for president and it automatically goes to the House, or maybe the House, ends up voting, maybe it's just completely frozen and nothing happens and everyone has to negotiate. I'm not sure what happens. But the point being, the state legislature at any time can choose not to ratify, not at any time, but practically speaking, if Pennsylvania doesn't like what's going on, the legislature, in terms of how this election was handled, they can choose a slate, choose an alternative slate, call a snap election. Again, as I said, the legislatures have plenary power here, and then of course the Congress ultimately blesses all of this as well. So what does this mean for you? It means that you should communicate with your state legislators, especially if you're in the states at which the counts are at issue, and let them know what you think. I'm not going to tell you what to say. I just told you what my concerns are. You may or may not share those concerns. And similarly, talk to your elected members of Congress and the Senate. And I can tell you, I've raised this issue. I've asked some very important people in Washington about it who are in the Senate, and they're not all that thrilled for to have to even consider this. So if you want them to strongly consider their role here and exercise it fully, they need to hear from voters. They need to hear from citizens. And similarly, if you're in a different state, let's say you're in Texas, let's say you're in Ohio, and states that voted one way or in another. And the same goes if you support Biden, because I understand, this is a political battle in the end, isn't it? Right? It's a judgment call as to whether there's this fraud that I allege should be ratified or not. And if you don't agree with me, you're going to say, oh no, Biden was elected free and fair, and these numbers are showing that, and they should be confirmed. But I'm highlighting the fact that every state has an interest in this. If you're in Texas and you don't want your vote to be obviated and negated, call your senators and congressmen, tell them to object. Same goes if you're in New York. You call your members of Congress and senators if you want Biden's votes to be vindicated. But I don't know about you, but when I see evidence of fraud, I get upset. And when I see a process that's a complete black box in terms of transparency, illegally secretive balloting, I get upset and I presume the worst, and we should presume the worst. It's up to them to prove the votes are legal when they do something illegal. So we're right about it.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.